Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 34 of my podcast. My name's Emma and this is where I share everything that I've been knitting and crocheting lately. How are you all doing? I hope you're all well. I am back filming in Isla's bedroom again today. I was going to film downstairs but Sophie is off school. She has finished for Easter now. So she's taken over the living room. She's currently playing on Mario Kart. So I've been relegated upstairs and this is the only room that's got good light at the moment. I'm sitting on the floor. I noticed when I was editing last time that there was quite a bit of glare from the window on my glasses, and hopefully if I'm sitting down here out of the way a bit, it will minimise that. Hopefully if I do catch it, it's not too distracting. So I have got some exciting things to share with you this episode. I've got 3 things that I need to share, 3 pieces of news. One of them I'm going to chat to you about in a moment. The other 2 I'm going to talk about a little bit later on because they're to do with projects that I'm working on at the moment. So let me just have a sip of coffee and we'll get started. Okay, first piece of news. I am really excited and also quite nervous, I will be honest, very, very nervous. By the time you watch this, I will have started my own Patreon, and that should be live at the moment as you're watching this video, all being well. I've talked about this a little bit on Instagram lately, so if you follow me over there, you will have seen. I've had some lovely messages of support from people. I really appreciate those. Thank you so much. I've also had a couple of messages from people saying that it's a shame that I'm taking my content away and putting it behind a paywall, and I just wanted to reassure people that that's absolutely not what I'm doing. My regular content on Instagram will not change. There'll be no change to any of my regular content here on YouTube either. My podcasts, any tutorials that I do are still all going to be available. That's not going to be a Patreon thing. Patreon is just going to offer a little bit extra for those people that would like it. So with regards to my regular content, so that would be my podcasts and tutorials here on YouTube, the only change is that members of my Patreon will get early access. So I'm aiming to get those videos available to patrons about a week before they go public on YouTube. During that period, there will also be no mid-roll ads. I'm going to set the setting to no ads at all, but I'm not quite sure how it works with YouTube. I'm not sure whether they'll still put them on the front or the beginning, and the end, but there'll definitely be no mid-roll ads. After that time period has elapsed, so once that the week is up and the videos go public to everybody onto YouTube, the ads will go back on. So I do monetize my videos here on YouTube. I earn a little bit of money from that and I'm incredibly grateful for it because that all goes back into my content creation and it allows me to keep on making videos for you. So for example, for the longest time I was using this incredibly flimsy cheap tripod that I got off Amazon, and when that broke, I was just having to make do with balancing my phone on various random household objects. And in fact, one of my most popular videos, my tutorial that I did for my mini granny square blanket, I actually filmed that by bending over double over a footstool and balancing my phone on that to get the correct angle. And yeah, with the money that I do get from the ads, I put that back into my content creation, and last month I was able to invest in a really good tripod. It does front facing like this, it does overhead, so everything's going to be so much easier and it's going to mean that my tutorials are so much better for you as well. So I just wanted to mention that to say how grateful I am that for putting up with the ads throughout the videos, because I know that they are annoying and they do spoil the experience somewhat, but I do really appreciate it. But if you would like to watch any new content without the ads, then you can join my knit tier on Patreon and you'll be able to watch any new videos ad-free for that period. I am currently looking into a new video hosting platform, and once I've got that sorted, that will mean that any videos that go onto Patreon will remain ad-free and they'll remain up there separately. because I won't be hosting them on YouTube anymore. And then for my YouTube audience, the videos will go on as normal with the ads on. I hope that makes sense. If you would be interested in some extra content, you can have a little look at my Brioche tier. So if you're a member of that tier, I will be aiming to put up a couple, well, one or two, I'm aiming for two, exclusive videos each month. And they're going to be a little bit more personal, behind the scenes kind of things. I'm thinking more like vlog style videos, showing you what I get up to during the week with my knitting and things like that. So up until very recently, I hadn't actually told anyone but very close friends and family that I even had a YouTube channel. And I think it was just around Christmas time, some of Sophie's friends, because they're reaching the age where they're going on social media, unfortunately, discovered that I had an Instagram account, and from that they found my YouTube account. And I had this really bizarre period where I had random parents on the school playground coming up to me and saying, oh, so-and-so has told me like you've got an Instagram and a YouTube, and I've watched all your, I've been looking at your videos and things. And I even had a teacher come up to me and say, oh, I've seen your YouTube channel. And that whole thing has just made me really conscious of the kind of things that I'm putting on here, because it's one thing putting on, knitting tutorials and knitting videos, isn't it? But then kind of personal behind the scenes things, it's just made me a bit more wary of it. And I think I'd just feel a lot more comfortable going forward if that type of thing remained on Patreon only, so at least it's it's behind that. So there'll be some exclusive video content, and I'm open to suggestions as well, because obviously this is all new to me. So if there's something that you would like to see on there, you can let me know and I can do that for you. There's also going to be some other little perks. So I've currently got some written instructions that I've done this week for my tutorials that I've got here on YouTube. So my mini granny square blanket, my corner to corner blanket, and my wave stitch. I've written up all the instructions for those, and those are available as PDF downloads on Patreon now as well. And I'll continue to do that. They are also in both US and UK terminology. I've got separate documents for each. So, because I know that can be quite confusing. If there's one that you prefer over the other, those are available on there to download now on Patreon. And that's something that I'm going to continue to do as time goes on as well. So when YouTube tutorials come out, the written instructions where possible will also go on to Patreon. I've also got something else in the works as well, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit because it's to do with a project that I'm currently working on. So if you was interested in that, you would want to look at my Brioche tier. But that's it. I'm going to stop talking about it now because I know that some people aren't interested in it, and that's absolutely fine. So yeah, whether you are going to continue watching me just here on YouTube and on Instagram, or whether you would like to become a member of my Patreon, I appreciate both. So thank you ever so much. And we will get on with the normal podcast content now. So I don't actually have any finished objects this week, but I do have a nearly finished object, and it's here on the bed with me. Let me try and get up a bit comfier so I can show you. It is my April cardigan. It is, I'd say 99% finished. It's off the needles. I have taken some footage of me wearing it, but it's not been blocked. The ends haven't been sewn in, and it doesn't have any buttons yet. But apart from that, it is completely finished, and I'm so happy with it. It has turned out perfectly. I know I was having a bit of a wobble, wasn't I, over the needle size, and I'm really glad that I did swatch and I did end up going down a needle size. It's worked out really well. So instead of a 4mm needle for the body, I went down to a 3.5. I used a 3mm for the cuffs instead of a 3.5. The only difference was the ribbing in the pattern, or the button band, sorry, calls for a 3mm needle, and I didn't have a 2.5mm needle, so I've actually used a 2.75 for that, but it's worked out. It's worked out perfectly. So I know I chatted a bit about this last time, but I kind of come up and show you the detailing now. So you cast on with this bit at the back here. You work shoulder increases, which is this lovely shoulder detail that you get here. That then goes into sleeve increases, which then finishes off with raglan increases, which are here. And then after that you separate for the sleeves, and it's plain sailing. It is knit back and forth, obviously, with it being a cardigan, and you just do that until you've got the right length before going into the ribbing. And I was worried that it was going to be a bit short at one point, but there is quite a bit of ribbing there. It is quite a cropped, close fitting cardigan anyway. That's just the style of it, and that's the kind of thing that I wanted, really. I am going to cast on another cardigan by PetiteKnit soon, which I'm going to chat about in a bit, which is a little bit more of a relaxed fit with a lot more positive ease, but I really wanted something a bit more close fitting for this one. Then it was a case of picking up all of the stitches for the button band, and this is the only place really where I struggled. So in the pattern notes as a guide, it says that you should be picking up, I think it was 351 stitches, and well, I tried and I just could not get it to 351. Normally what I would do is use stitch markers to kind of section off where I'm picking up the stitches, and so that I would know that within a particular section I've got to pick up, say, 20 stitches, and that really helps me. But I didn't find that I was able to do that with the April cardigan, just because of the shaping of it, because I found that you didn't necessarily need the same number of stitches going across the neck here as what you would want to pick up going along the sides here. And in the end, I picked up what I thought was 337, and I remember thinking, well, that's not too bad, you know, that's close enough, it's okay, because it does say approximately, it is an approximate number. And it wasn't until I'd actually started knitting it and doing the ribbing and counted again that I realised I'd only picked up 327, not 37. I just miscounted. So I had a bit of a worry on, because obviously that's a little bit more of a difference, isn't it? And it was all scrunched up on the needles, and I was worried that once I cast it off, it was going to really affect the shaping of the cardigan, and I was going to end up having to pull the full thing out. But it's okay. I think using the bigger needles definitely helped. I've also, my buttonholes are looking a bit squiffy. I'm not sure what I've done there. I've not done buttonholes like this before, but I've got this here. Can you see it? This pale stitch here. So what you do is you work your 1 by 1 ribbing, and then I think on like the 4th row, what you do is you knit along, cast off so many stitches, and then knit along again and cast off so many stitches, and you do that for a total of 4 buttonholes. And even though I cast off in the ribbing, yeah, I'm not sure why I've got this random pile here, but it'll be fine, because once the buttons are on it, it's going to cover those up anyway, isn't it? It's not like it's going to be something that you're going to see. And because I didn't have the full number of stitches for the button band, I also decreased the amount in between each buttonhole just ever so slightly. So I think the pattern tells you to work 22 stitches, I think, in between each buttonhole, and I just did 20 because I was worried with it not having as many stitches. I was worried that if I did what it said in the pattern, that this next buttonhole here would end up being sort of you know, on the V here, and that it would look a bit odd. And I've done it so it ends exactly on the straight bit of the cardigan. So I just need to sew the ends in, get some buttons on, but yeah, it's practically finished. I used some stash yarn for this. I used Drops Nord in the colour Goldenrod, and I had to buy some Drops Kid Silk in the shade Curry to go with it. So it is a bit thicker than the recommended yarn, what the pattern calls for, which is probably why I had to go down half a needle size to meet gauge. But I'm really happy with it, and it feels really soft, really fluffy, really warm. It's going to be perfect. We are just starting to reach the kind of weather now here in the UK where sometimes in the afternoon, if the sun's out, it's warm enough not to have to wear like a big coat. I'm wearing my balloon jacket today, which is another PetiteKnit pattern, and I'd forgotten it needs a defuzz, but I haven't worn this in about a year, and I'd forgotten how much I liked it. And yeah, the other day it was actually warm enough for me to leave my coat at home when I picked Tyler up and just to wear this, and yeah, it felt so good doing that. I feel like spring and summer is finally on its way. So yeah, that is my nearly finished object. But apart from that, I don't have anything else that's completed to show you this episode. I do have some new projects, however, and one of my projects has had a little bit of a makeover. When I say that it's had a makeover, that is basically a nicer way of saying that it's been frogged and remade into something else. Okay, so the last time that we spoke, I showed you an advent blanket that I'd started, and I was crocheting that using my yarn advent that I got from Beehive Yarns last year, and I was working a blanket using the wave stitch, which I have a tutorial for in case you're interested. And I don't know, the more that I worked on it and the more that I added rows to it, the less satisfied I was with it. I don't know, just the more I worked on it, the more I disliked it. I just wasn't happy with how it was working up. I wasn't keen on the contrast colour that I was using, which was some Cascade yarn in kind of like an off-white creamy colour. I felt that it muddied the colours a lot and that they didn't stand out enough and they kind of melded into each other. I just wasn't happy with it, so I made the decision to frog it, and I'm going to show you what it looks like now. Here it is. I have started another mini granny square blanket, but this time I'm using exclusively the yarns from my Beehive Yarn Advent, and I'm much happier with how it's looking. I think the colours just stand out a lot more. So that means that I've got two of these now. So this is the new one that I've started, and this is the original one. So I've got two, and this one is just using scrap yarns. So here's all of my remaining scrap yarns. So these are now in my little basket. I don't know if I can show you, but I'm kind of, yeah, I don't know whether I might need to replenish this a little bit, because I don't know if you can see, but all of the colours that I've got left now are very samey, and I don't, very samey. They're very similar to each other, and I do think I maybe need to invest or get some more scraps before I work on that a little bit more. I don't want to add too many of those onto this, because I'm really relying on sort of these lighter colours and these, you know, these higher contrast colours to break it up a little bit. I think if it was all, let me show you some of these a bit closer, like all of these kinds of colours, it's not going to have the same effect. So that's on hold for the moment, and I'm concentrating on my new mini square blanket, and I've put all of my advent yarn in here. So my yarn ball has been refilled, and all these, it's very difficult to show you really. I have this problem every time, and I don't know why I continue to try showing you like this, but I'm trying to use all of the colours evenly, so these are all of the main colours that I've got, and then because I frogged the other project, I've got some mini little balls like this, but I am using them, and it won't be too long before I've just got the main colours, the main balls left. So, but I'm enjoying that, and I'm being very good and sewing the ends in as I go again. I've just got 2 that I didn't get a chance to do yesterday, but this is the corner where I started. And what I do is I work down here and I work across the bottom of here to add another row onto it, so it's growing a bit like a mitered square, and then I sew all the ends in once I've done that entire increase. So yeah, so that's my advent blanket. It's looking very different to the last time that you saw it, but I'm really happy with it now. And if you would be interested in making one of these for yourself, then of course I've got a tutorial for it. And that's the one that I was talking about earlier, where I was balancing my phone on a footstool in order to film it. Last time we chatted, I also talked to you a little bit about how frustrated I was feeling about my brioche shawl. So if you've not seen my past episodes, I've been wanting to make a brioche shawl for a very long time, and the pattern that I had in mind was the Brioche Shawl by Andrea Mowring, and I was just having all kinds of trouble finding the right yarn for it. I was ideally wanted to use something from Stash. I didn't really want to buy anything new for it, and I was just having trouble finding something that I was happy with. There was just something holding me back, and I had lots of lovely comments from people with some really great advice, so thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And I had another play around with some of the minis that I had in Stash, and I finally hit upon a really lovely combination. And originally, I mean, this just shows how things kind of evolve. Originally, I wanted to use the colour yellow because I wanted something that was really spring-like. And the colours that I found in my minis are not, you know, they're not yellow. I don't even think I have a yellow in there. But they just looked so lovely together, and it really reminded me of kind of holiday beachy vibes. Now, I can't show you all of them because quite a lot of them now have been knitted up, so I'm going to show you this in a moment. I've just got a little bit more chatting to do. So here's some of the colours. So these are the darker colours now, because the minis were arranged in like a fade, and I think pretty much all of these colours are from my Beehive Yarns mini skein club that I joined last year, but some of them might also be from Loom Wool. In fact, I think this one, which is quite weird, this one is from Loom Wool, I think, I'm pretty sure. So they're a bit of a mixture, and I ended up having to completely rethink what it was I was looking for to make, because I started the Brioche Shawl and I just wasn't happy with it, and I had to have a really good think about what it was that I wasn't happy with, and it really made me consider what I was looking for in a shawl, what I wanted. So the brioche shawl that I was originally going to make is in a crescent shape, just the same as the boho blush shawl, which I made, I think it was last year, but I'll pop a picture in so you can see it. And as much as I love that shawl, I hardly ever wear it. It's just not a shape that I really like, and I didn't find the pattern for the brioche one that I was making, not for the boho blush. I didn't find the pattern that intuitive. It was one that I really had to, you know, keep looking at the written instructions for, and after a while that kind of grates on me, because I like to be able to relax into it and just kind of knit off without having to keep referring back to instructions. And I didn't like how the edging was looking. I really wanted something with an I-cord edge. So I started having a little bit of a play around, and I decided on the shape that I wanted. One of my most worn shawls is the Satellite Shawl, also by Andrea Mowry, but the thing that I really like about it is the shaping. It's an asymmetric triangle, which means when you put it on, you've got this lovely big thick triangle bit here, and then a longer kind of thin tapered bit, and you can kind of wrap it around yourself really well, where you've got this like but the main pattern, the main project sits here. So I decided that I wanted something like that. And I didn't want to do the 2 colour brioche. I wanted to do 1 colour brioche so that I could use the minis and do a fade. So I ended up playing around for quite a while, and I ended up, I don't want to say drafting my own pattern because I'm not a designer, and I don't consider myself a designer, but I've basically made it up myself. And this is how it's looking. Try and show you. Okay, so it starts here, and I've not sewn any ends in because I might end up having to frog it yet. Depends how it goes. So we have this just plain part at the bottom, and this is in Drops Nord. We've got the first brioche section here, which is faded, and then it goes into another garter stitch section before going into another brioche section, which I am, I think, about halfway through. It will then go into another garter stitch section, and then 1 more brioche section, and then finishing off with just the plain garter again. But I'm really enjoying it. It's really difficult to show you on the needles actually, but yeah, I may end up having to frog this year. I'm not sure. It depends how it works out. It might need a bit of tinkering with before I'm completely happy with it, but I really love how the colours are looking together. So we've got these lovely blues here, which reminds me of the sea, and then we're going to these kinds of lovely sandy beigey browns, and then it fades back into like the dark blues. So it's kind of like the sand, the sea and the sky. It's really lovely, and I think it's going to be really lovely for like a holiday shawl to take away. I think it'll be really nice. So obviously, as I've just said, I'm not a designer. I don't consider myself a designer. I won't be releasing the pattern or anything, but if you are a member of my brioche tier over on Patreon, I am writing up the notes for this as I do it. I will be writing up written instructions, just kind of going through what I've done to make this, and that's going to be available over on there once it's finished. But as I say, I think it's going to need a little bit of tinkering around with. We'll see how it looks once it's blocked and things. But yeah, I really like it. I think it's really nice. And I'm also going to do some tutorials for the brioche as well, because I had quite a lot of questions about those. I think single colour brioche is a lot more simple than 2 colour brioche, because you've only got to work each row once. With 2 colour brioche, if you've never worked it before, you actually knit across the row and then slide your work back on the needles back to the beginning and work the row again with your second colour, and then so each row you're essentially working twice. Whereas with the single colour brioche, it's a lot more just like regular knitting, it's just knitting back and forth. So I had a little bit of trouble working out the increases and things like that. I did have to frog my original version because the brioche section had far too many increases and it was going off and a bit like that. But yeah, I'm happy with it now. Yeah, it seems to be behaving a lot more. So yeah, I'm hoping I'll have that done soon. I've got so many things that I want to finish off before I go on holiday. It's 6 weeks today that I go actually, and I've got to finish off that. I'm going to start a camisole, which I'm going to chat with you about in a moment, and I've got another full cardigan to cast on and finish as well before we go, because these are all things that I want to take with me. April cardigan was one of them, so that's almost done. Oh, I don't think I talked about the buttons. What colour buttons do you think would go with this? I was having a look on Etsy and I couldn't really find any. We don't really have many shops, like haberdashery kinds of places, that local to me. I suppose I could go to Hobbycraft, but it's like on a big retail park out of town. Well, just, I don't want to say it's out of town because that makes it sound like it's not in Hull. It is in Hull. It's just on the outskirts of the town centre on like a big retail park, and there's loads of roadworks around it at the moment. It's quite difficult to get to. So yeah, I've been wondering what colour buttons I could get, and I'm thinking possibly like a dark brown, like wooden ones, but I'm not sure. I'm just looking here because I've got some brown wool. It looks ridiculous. I'm not sure. Maybe I should take it to Hobbycraft and take the cardigan with me and have a look. So yeah, that's my shawl that I'm currently working on. I'm just calling it my Brioche Shawl. I don't have a name for it or anything yet. I have also started a gauge swatch for a new project. This is also a holiday knit, and it's using this Knitting for Olive pure silk yarn that I've had in stash. I think I got this last year, and I originally bought this to make a camisole number 2. There's the colourway. It's called Cardamom. It's really lovely. So I've only got 2 balls of it because my original plan was to make a camisole number 2, which is, and I'm sure you'll all know what it looks like. It is a very, very popular pattern by my favourite things knitwear. And I've had to have a bit of a rethink on that. So I've actually made a few camisole type tops now, and I don't wear any of them. And I think the reason for that is because all of the ones I've made have very thin straps, and I don't like wearing tops with thin straps because I don't like to have my bra straps showing. Basically, I think that's the reason why I'd never wear them. They just stay in my wardrobe. So I've had to have a bit of a rethink and a look for a different pattern, and I've decided to make the camisole number 9 instead, which has a lot thicker straps that would cover a bra. It just looks a bit more it looks like it will be a bit more practical. So I've started making a swatch for that. The only problem is that pattern calls for 3 balls and I've only got the 2. There's my little swatch that I'm halfway through. I think I'll be okay though, because it's worked top down, so I can just make it cropped if needs be. I've got some like high-waisted trousers that I could wear it with. It would be absolutely fine. So I think it will, you know, I'm not worried about that. It should be okay. I am having a little bit of trouble with my gauge swatch. So this is one of the recommended yarns, but not the recommended yarn. I think, I'm not sure actually, but it might be, the original might be worked just in the merino. And then I think it lists the cotton merino and then the pure silk Knitting for Olive as an alternative. And I think the silk is a little bit thinner than the original yarn that's used, I think. Anyway, basically, I know I've only got this tiny little swatch at the moment, but I had a count of my stitches, and basically going by that, I need to go down a needle size. But I'm actually quite reluctant to do that because the pattern uses 3 different needle sizes, and the smallest of that is a 2mm, and I just really don't want to go down like smaller than a 2mm needle. What would I have to go down to, like a 1.75mm? And I just, yeah, I think you know, I might just plough ahead with it regardless. I'm quite happy with that, with the fabric, how it's looking. So I'll probably just stick to the recommended needles, even though ideally I could probably do with going down a needle size. So the next time we chat, hopefully that will be way in progress. I'm trying to think what else I've got. So that was my second bit of news, by the way, was the shawl. Because I said I had 3 pieces of news. I just stabbed myself in the neck with my knitting needle. The next piece of news is regarding tutorials and things like that on my YouTube channel. So I put a story on my Instagram recently saying that I was thinking of recording like a beginner's knitting series on YouTube and asking for thoughts on that, and I had such a positive response. And I also asked for any other suggestions of what people would like to see, and I had so many suggestions. It was brilliant. I've got such a long list now. I'm going to be very busy filming all these tutorials. And one of the things that I got asked, and that I do get asked quite often, is do I have any tutorials on how to knit socks? Can I show people how to knit socks? And I thought it would be really fun if I was going to film some tutorials to have a bit of a knit along at the same time. So that's what I'm going to do. I am going to have my very first knit along. Now, I only decided this like this week, so I don't have all of the details yet. It's made a little bit more awkward by the fact that I am going away soon. I don't really want, you know, the KAL to run while I'm on holiday, just in case I'm not available to answer any questions and things like that. So it will most likely be once I get back from holiday, so kind of mid-May, and that will also give me a chance to knit some tutorials, to record some tutorials for you. But what I'm thinking is, it's going to be really good for beginners. We're going to knit a pair of shorty socks. We're going to have a contrasting cuff, a heel flap and gusset, and then a contrasting toe. So it's going to talk you all through exactly how to do that. I'm going to have a tutorial for each step. It will probably run over 4 weeks. Like I say, I'm still working out the exact details. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, then, you know, definitely watch out for that, because as soon as I've got all the details sorted, I'll be letting you know exactly what's happening. It is going to be really good for beginners, but, you know, equally, if you're not new to knitting socks, you know, whether you've knitted one sock or whether you've knit 100 pairs of socks, then I'd really love everyone to join in. You know, it's open to everybody, not just beginners. It's just going to be a really nice, a fun relaxed KAL, and well, at the end of it we'll all have a lovely pair of shorty socks. So as you know, my sock mojo has been missing for a little while, and considering that I am going to be doing the KAL soon, I thought it would be best to have a bit of a practice again and remind myself of everything. So last night I have actually cast on a pair of socks. I know, finally. And this is how it's looking so far. I've just done the cuff. I also did the cuff using combination knitting, and I think it's worked up really neat compared to how it would normally look. So I'll probably also have a tutorial for that soon as well, if you'd be interested in that. Combination knitting is basically a really easy way of solving that kind of ladder you get whenever you're knit ribbing in the knit stitch, and it's all to do with the amount of yarn that we use when we make a purl stitch as opposed to the amount that we use when making a knit stitch. And yeah, it just makes it look a lot neater. I'm really happy with how that's looking. So I'm just making a scrappy pair. I think I'm going to do 12 rows per colour, and I'm using some beautiful yarn that I got in an advent swap with my friend Nicola that we did at Christmas time. And I've still got all of my yarn together here in this beautiful Christmas bag that Nicola sent me. I was amazed with this because I thought that Nicola had bought this bag, and when I mentioned it, she told me that she'd made it. And I think she actually said, well, it's not very good. And I think it's amazing, because I would not have the first clue of how to make anything like that. But I have got all these beautiful balls of yarn that I'm going to be using, and I'm just going to do random stripy order. They're not going to match. I'm not bothered if they match or not, the socks. And I'm really enjoying it. I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed knitting socks, actually. I'm not going to show you all of these because there's, there's 24 of them, obviously. So yeah, I'm really excited for this. I'm, you know, for the socks and for the knit along. Do let me know whether you'll be joining in. I was thinking earlier that it would be really, really good to have some prizes as well. Maybe just a couple prizes for people who took part and finished a pair of shorty socks within the KAL time frame. I think that would be really fun. So I only have one more thing to chat to you about that now, and that is my upcoming new project, which is a champagne cardigan. And I mentioned this the last time we spoke because I'd already bought the yarn, but I didn't show it because I was feeling a little bit guilty because I'd basically spent some birthday money in advance. What I mean by that is I'd bought the yarn with, you know, before I even had my money off people. So it was my birthday earlier in the month, and I thought I'm going to treat myself, and I've splurged. So it's quite rare, to be honest, that I use the recommended yarn for a pattern. I almost always have to seek out a cheaper alternative that's more budget friendly, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I've always been really happy with the projects that I've made. So for example, with this cardigan, I've used Drops. I really like the Drops brand. It's really affordable and you know, it's great quality. But I thought just for once I would like to use the yarn that's recommended in the pattern. And the Champagne cardigan uses Double Sunday by Sandnes Garn, and that's held double with the tin silk mohair. And I had quite a lot of to and froing trying to decide on a colour. So whereas the April cardigan is obviously quite a bold colour, because the Champagne cardigan is going to be a bit more of an investment piece for me, I wanted it to be in a shade that is going to go with as much of the clothes in my wardrobe as possible. So I've gone for a much more neutral colour. So I'm going to show you on screen, but I have got some closer footage as well to show you. So this is, it's called Marzipan. Yeah, this is Double Sunday in the shade Marzipan. And for the tin silk mohair, the shade I have got is called Kit. And I was a bit worried when it came because it is a little bit paler than what I imagined it will be, or what I imagined it to be like from looking at it on the computer screen. But I think it's going to be okay. I don't think I would wear a colour like this as a sweater, just that colour. But obviously because it's a cardigan and I'm going to be wearing it over stuff, I'm probably not going to have it buttoned up that much. It's going to be more of a casual, relaxed thing just to go over like maxi dresses and things like that when we're away. I'll have, the colour of whatever I'm wearing underneath it to break it up. So I think we're going to be good to go. So I'm going to cast that on soon. I'm really excited. I've also got another project that I want to make before we go on holiday. So in 6 weeks, I've got to make that cardigan, my camisole, finish off this cardigan, and I'm making a Florence bag as well. But I'm not going to show you that here because I'm currently in the middle of filming a vlog on that for my Patreon. But I will be showing it on a future podcast. So that is all I have got to share with you today. So I'm going to go see what Sophie's up to. I'm going to go make myself a fresh coffee that hasn't gone cold, and I will be checking in with you in a little bit. The next time we chat will probably be in a couple of weeks, and I'll have an update on all of these projects. So thank you ever so much for watching. Please do check out my Patreon. I'll put all of the details down below. I'd love to see you over there. But if not, I'll see you here on YouTube. So take care, everyone. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.